Okay, my beautiful friends, yeah, it is that time. Post-market wrap-up on this lovely Thursday, September 26, 2019. Let's start off with the basics. A very volatile day in this market. Stocks were all over the place. Ended in the negative across the board. Nothing major, but in the negative nonetheless. Now, some pretty strong bond buying here. The entire curve dropped. Look, I don't care what you might be hearing from the talking heads on the financial channels that are trying to convince you that the bond market isn't sending a very ominous warning. It is, and we could prove that with what happened today. Actually, let's back up to yesterday when we had Fed President Bullard explaining that the Federal Reserve is going to be expanding its balance sheets because there's demand for capital from the banks. I want you to think about what I just said. So this guy, Bullard, is admitting that the banks are going to be bailed out. And you know who's bailing them out? You are. And why is it that not even a single member of Congress or the president is saying, hold on a second, no more bailouts for the banks. We already did it once. And they think that we're all stupid, that we don't understand what's actually going on. Recapitalization of the banks is a bailout. Okay? They never lose. Wall Street will never lose. The middle class is going to be destroyed, continues to be destroyed. Infinite debt expansion is what we are looking at right now. Again, the Federal Reserve is going to be expanding its balance sheet. That's a nice way of saying inflating their balance sheet, but they can't tell you that. Now, I want to read this to you. This is from Morgan Stanley. It's pretty incredible. This is what they said. This is a statement from Morgan Stanley. The Fed will need to grow its balance sheet permanently. Now, they go on to say, here we go. The Federal Reserve will have to maintain permanent operations in its efforts to stabilize short-term lending markets and keep its target borrowing rate in check. What are they saying? Let's decipher this. That without the Federal Reserve, again, expanding its balance sheet into infinity, which is their plan, and I'll explain that a little further in a second, the yield curve, they're going to lose absolute control of the yield curve, and we will get a spike, like I've been warning about since time immemorial. The Federal Reserve, obviously, has now become the lender and buyer of last resort when it comes to the debt market and recapitalizing the banks. People, I've warned about what we're seeing right now for nearly an entire decade, and now it's happening right in front of our faces. Really, it's so easy to understand what they're going to do because you know why? They have no choice. Not only do they have no choice, it's their grand plan. The grand plan is very simple. Every world central bank, that includes the Federal Reserve, which are owned by the same entities, okay, their goal is to flood the world with as much debt as they possibly can. They want to own the world. They want to become the lenders and buyers of last resort. Now that we have heard, just over the past 2 days, we have Bullard talking about expanding the balance sheet or inflating the balance sheet, recapitalizing the banks, which is another bailout. Why people are not up in arms right now tells you how dumbed down the American people are. We already have been here before. Now here we are again. Did anyone ever doubt that we would not be here again, that these bailouts would continue into infinity? Well, that's what we're seeing right freaking now. And Morgan Stanley is saying, this is going to happen. So don't listen to Greg Mannarino. If you don't believe Greg Mannarino, who's been warning of this for a decade, listen to Morgan Stanley. I think most of you would rather listen to me. I believe I've earned your trust after all of these years because you're seeing these things unfold. Look, it's very simple to understand what's happening around us all. The charade environment we are in, the big, fat, ugly bubble of the stock market, which is now beyond the big, fat, ugly bubble status that our president warned about when he was a candidate. We have exceeded that multiple times by now. So that should tell you something, what is being set up here. And why you need to be taking the opposite side of the debt expansion into infinity. I have been explaining to you again. We're going to see a debt expansion cycle like we have never seen before. Well, here's the proof. It's right in our face. And you know what I hear? I hear crickets. I don't hear anything. And that is a frightening prospect. When people have gotten to the point that where they've been pushed into such a state of mind, it's a state of learned helplessness. Look this up. It's a medical thing. Learned helplessness. I can't even talk. I'm getting all screwed up in the head. But that's what we're seeing here. You know, the zombie apocalypse is real. If you understand the concepts that I outline for you every day, especially here in this video, consider yourself among the smartest people on earth, that you're able to see through it. You're able to put these things together and say, whoa, what is really going on here? And then when you look around and you see that there's no action being taken and there will not be any, that just shows you how we are really deep into this rat hole. And the zombie apocalypse is real. People are now stupider than they have been, I think, in human history. It's the truth. It's unbelievable, but that's where we are at. Anyway, with that said, I want you to consider what I have said here. We have an admission from a Fed president. We now have Morgan Stanley. Don't listen to Greg Mannarino, who's been saying this for 10 years. Listen to them if you want to, but it all comes down to the grand plan of world central banks to become the lenders and buyers of last resort. Every world leader has enabled their central bank, I can't say every, but of the developed nations here. Let's just talk about Mario Draghi and President Donald Trump are calling on, and especially President Trump, the Federal Reserve to expand the debt into infinity, to suppress rates as far as they will possibly go, to kill the dollar, to take away its purchasing power so you have to work twice as hard to make ends meet. Where does it end? It will not end, because again, you have to understand that leaders of the developed nations who are in unison, like Mario Draghi, like the President of the United States, are empowering their central bank every single day that they allow this mechanism to continue. The bailouts of the banks right now, the recapitalization of the banks, you don't hear anything about it. We all understand about the repo mechanism that is going on, at least 75 billion per day, at least 75 billion per day. And of course, there's a premium on top of the repo. You got at least 30 billion per day into longer term debt purchases. I mean, this is QE. And now we're going to get more out of the mouth of Bullard now and Morgan Stanley saying, hey, Greg Mannarino's been right this entire time. And now you're really going to see what's about to happen. And that's where we're at. So, look, you can't sit here and do nothing. You must take action, all right? We know what they're going to do. It's being broadcast to us, people. That makes our life simple. And it brings us all back to what I've been saying since day one. Bet against this debt. It is a bubble of a magnitude that is going to get much worse, okay? Become your own central bank. You do this by holding hard assets. Get out of their system. In my opinion, and I'm going to say it again, this sell-off in cryptocurrencies is a buying opportunity. Don't think of them as cryptocurrencies. Think of these as tradable assets that people, there are both buyers and sellers, and the group of people that are buying them is getting larger. That alone should tell you something. I don't care what you want to call this asset or how you want to put it into a perspective in your own head. You want to stay in the dollar, a unit of debt, good for you. I congratulate you on being ignorant. You got to get out of it. You got to let them play their games. We're going to play our games. So again, it's a win-win for you and me. We understand what to do. But just taking away just the last 2 days from Fed President Bullard, from Morgan Stanley, and for what I've been saying now for a better part of a decade, this should make sense to you. It really should. And the people, if you're not speaking out against this, you really need to start thinking about why. Why you are not upset that the banks are being recapitalized, that there's bailouts going on right under your nose, that not one member of Congress nor the President of the United States is talking about, let's do something about it. Because the people are always forced to lose. And that's what we're doing now. We're losing unless you're taking advantage of the situation, which is betting against the debt, becoming your own central bank, and using this fake market as a money machine to generate cash for yourself so you can take that cash and put it into hard assets, into other things. Anyway, look, I know this is getting kind of long. I'm gonna stop with this video, but really think about what you can do to start making people aware. I mean, other than sharing this video, which I'm counting on you to do if you're part of my team, but start tweeting. Start tweeting the president. Start tweeting members of Congress. Start posting all of this stuff. Use the stuff I put out. Say, Greg Mannarino says this. Greg Mannarino says that. Do you think he's right or do you think he's an idiot? And then if they say, well, Greg's an idiot, we'll say, well, why? What is he saying wrong here? What are you not understanding? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, like I say, people, we're all responsible for each other. So let's try to make a difference in each other's lives. It's got to start with us. If it doesn't start with us, then who? Love you all. Again, please share this video. See you in the morning.